We have Case Lawrence here today, a man that turned a near bankruptcy into a $1 billion playbook.
I spent 2 years just trying to avoid bankruptcy. My thing was I have no income. I literally have got to make something happen. You know, when you're desperate, you're going to make it happen.
You got into this business because you had no income, you didn't know what you were going to do, and now there's 150 million EBITDA. God bless America.
So welcome back to the Startup Ignition podcast. Thank you so much for tuning back in. I'm Tyler Richards. This is John Richards.
Hello.
We are your hosts, but today we have a very important guest we're so excited to have here on the podcast. We have Case Lawrence here today, who I am actually meeting for one of the first times. I think I've heard of you in passing and through my dad's connections, but like actually to get to know your story, I'm actually really excited for the podcast today. So thank you so much for coming. And I do have a bio on you, Case.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, correct anything that's wrong here, but I want to read this for the audience because we do have an audience here that I like to introduce every guest that we have on the podcast, just so up front they know, okay, who is this guy and what is he talking about, right? And so today we have Case Lawrence, who is the founder of Circus Trix, that is now Sky Zone, is that right?
That's correct.
Which is the world's largest indoor trampoline park with 300 plus locations and thousands of employees at this point. I mean, with those many locations, you have to have a lot of people working underneath that umbrella.
Over 20,000
20,000
in the system, right? We have franchises. So we say we're over 5,000 employees directly and then over 20,000
Those
in
facilities
the system.
need a lot of part-time employees.
That's exactly.
And you're also responsible for a ton of other brands. You've been featured on Forbes, NBC, Inc., and you're usually pioneering in the entertainment and the market to millennials. You're a Duke Law grad, I saw, which is really cool.
Has nothing to do with trampolines.
Yeah, nothing to do with trampolines, but hey, a great foundation. EY Entrepreneur of the Year, which is really cool. What year was that, by the way?
2017.
2017. You're a professor at BYU, or have been, or current?
That's what before we started recording, I didn't actually know. So you said you were following my footsteps or something you said. Yeah. But it was a nice compliment you said. But you're teaching at BYU too?
Yeah.
So as an adjunct professor?
Adjunct, yeah.
Yeah, really?
Entrepreneurship 101.
Oh, wow.
That's the class I started.
That's why I
created that class.
You're the one who created that class.
That's crazy.
So you took that over? I did.
So we had...
I'm just saying.
We can talk about that if you want.
No, but it's that's awesome.
Well, to wrap up the bio,
that's John's baby.
Yeah.
We know that. There's a picture of him in the hall.
Yeah. We wrap up the bio though, just so we can get to the meat of the content here. You're also a husband, a father of 6, and you are also a man that turned a near bankruptcy into a $1 billion playbook. So I'm really excited to dive into this story. So everybody welcome Case Lawrence to the podcast.
Lawrence,
We're very
There's
excited.
one major thing you left out.
What?
He's also a quality pickleball player.
Snap.
We were going to get to pickleball.
We've actually played against him.
Who won?
Yeah.
Who won?
I think it was a draw.
Yeah, no,
There's no draws in pickleball.
You played with your younger son who was about 14 at the time?
That's right. Yeah.
He's probably now, how old, 18, 19?
Yeah, he's 18.
He's 18?
And he's a good player too.
Yeah, I've gotten a little bit, he was like 4-0 before you and I were.
Oh, wow.
I don't know about that.
So you could probably school us in a game or two.
Sport. It's
so
such
fun.
a great sport. Yeah.
So I don't know if you've seen any of our podcast episodes. No hard feelings if not, but we always do a little segment that we call our Icebreaker that I like to spring on our guests that you have no idea.
I didn't know if that was just the ones I saw.
No, we're doing it with you, Case, as well. So this one is we're gonna do a game. We're gonna call it Jump or Pass. So and fitting off
Trampoline,
after the trampoline park. Okay. So jump is I'm all in. I suggest it. I'd do it. I'd build it. Or pass. No, I'm not buying it. I'm not doing it. Okay. So here we go.
And you want just him or both of us?
I want both of you.
Okay.
So you're both saying jump or pass. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios and a couple of situations. You tell me jump or pass. That's all it is. Really easy game. Here we go. As an entrepreneur, a budding entrepreneur, franchising your first business, jump or pass? Come on, people.
Simultaneously?
Yeah,
What do you say, Case?
No, I'm going to jump.
You're going to jump.
I'm bullish on franchising.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're in that business. We could talk more about that.
That's why I brought it up.
I think it's a real underrated
Business model.
entrepreneurial path.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's some stats on that for our viewers and listeners, that the 5-year failure rate on regular entrepreneurship is 80%. So 80% are going to be failed within 5 years. Franchises invert that.
Yeah.
It's only 20% in
Failure.
5 years because they're getting a playbook that's proven and tested. Now, obviously, the quality of the franchisor that a franchisee hooks themselves up to has a lot to do with that, right? So, but if you go with the top 100 franchises in the country and you become a franchisee of one of them, you're going to be in business and survive much more easily.
So I want to hear your jump or pass.
For me, first business, it depends. My first business that I had, is that what you're asking?
No, I'm saying as a budding entrepreneur, would the mentorship advice say, yes, you should do a franchise for your first go at a business? Yes or no?
I think it's a great option for somebody to get in entrepreneurship that way. But I don't know if I would take my first business and become a franchisor right away because that's hard. But being a franchisee, that's an easier path.
Get your toes wet. Yeah. Okay, next one. Here we go.
By the way, I love that topic, and I would love to come back to that.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. No, let's do it. Number 2, jump or pass. Cold emailing investors without a pitch deck. Just reaching out, no pitch deck. Are you pitch deck or no pitch deck? First, reach out to investor.
I'm a no pitch deck, and I'll tell you why. But go ahead. What's your thought?
So I was going to say the same.
Really?
And depending on context, right? I mean,
that's actually interesting. Okay.
But again,
what are your?
You've heard me teach.
I know.
This.
What are your reasons?
Because I don't want. Most venture investors are type A personality and make very quick judgments. They get the pitch deck, look at a few slides, and say, nope. They haven't met me. They haven't talked to me, haven't heard my voice inflection, my energy, my excitement, my passion, why I'm doing the deal. I don't want the pitch deck doing my selling. So if avoidable, the only place, and this is for viewers and listeners here, that I would send a pitch deck in an email ahead of a personal meeting is to like a tier 1 VC out of Silicon Valley. Like if Sequoia was interested enough to me to ask for my pitch deck, okay, I'll send it to them. But an average run-of-the-mill VC, and I hate to say that for the VCs listening, but
we're one of
not
them.
Everybody's a tier 1.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would not send it in advance if I can get a meeting in person.
Are your
or
reasons
Zoom.
cases similar? You don't want a pre-judgmental.
Your word there, cold, that you used.
Yeah.
I like that because I think, I would rather use the first email to set some context.
Yeah.
Maybe a mutual friend we have, or establish some common ground before going into
the pitch.
Into the concept.
Another lesson that's coming out, these always bring up great teaching moments. Another lesson, the facts is that cold outreach to VCs anyway produce very little results. 98%+ of investments VCs make are usually from a warm introduction. Yeah.
Okay, here goes
Great stats.
Here goes another one. Yeah, he's a stat machine over here. Here's another one. Third one. Working with a family member, starting a business with a spouse, a brother, a family member. I mean, we're kind of probably a little biased on this, but what do you think? Jump or pass, Case?
Well, I'll parse it for you. I think father-son's a lot different. I'm doing something with my son right now.
Yeah.
You guys do. I think the dynamics, but in general, extended family, I'm going to pass.
Yeah, you're out on that.
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword. This is a 50-50, completely down the middle. Japan, for instance, has a ton of nepotism, way more than the United States, and it's good and bad. That's a great case study. The ones where it works, the nepotism has greater trust. Things move faster through the C-level decisions, all that, because there's so much trust. But when it's not a good situation, not a good family dynamic, it's way, way worse. So it can either be the best of the best or the worst of the worst. It's not usually the middle of the road.
Yeah, it could go either way on the spectrum.
Right. Yeah, like Tyler and I, we disagree and sometimes have our moments, but we know at the end of the day, we really look out for our back.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to screw me, right?
He's I've loved this kid for 37 years.
Yeah, and that's not going to change. And I think that's an important thing to parse also is we're talking about, the question was starting a business.
Yeah.
And what the question was not was hiring family members to the startup that you have already started. Yeah. That's a whole different discussion.
But there's a different temperature and boiling point and experience being co-founders.
Yeah.
Co-founding, and until you've been in a co-founding situation that gets hairy, you haven't seen what a person's really like because you know, I've seen the weirdest behavior out of co-founder to co-founder when the going gets tough.
When money gets involved, it changes relationships.
And it's not just the money, the power, the dynamic. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's just it's sad. Tyler, you've seen too. You and I just in our living experience, because you don't have the decades, you have years now, but not decades, and you've seen co-founder nightmares.
And a lot of them ruin relationships too sometimes. So just
sure.
Listeners and viewers, be careful there.
Caveat emptor.
Next one, and I'm trying to get through these ones here.
These are fun. These are takeoffs in their own right.
I know, right? We could have a conversation on all of them. Here we go. Next one. Starting or investing in a business that is a category creator, like a business or a category or vertical that didn't even exist like 3 or 5 years ago.
Jump.
You're jumping at that.
Yeah.
The new innovation. What about you?
I'm jumping.
You're jumping too.
That's my background. And, you know, I think that's one of the principles that I encourage. I think that idea of finding yourself on the frontier
of something,
whether it's pickleball, whether it's trampolines, whether it's whatever, you know, I mean, that's where you want to be actually.
You want to hear a quote that I just heard on the way here from the All In podcast with Sachs. What's his first name again? David Sachs from Craft Ventures, who we've had some dealings with. So David Sachs said, and this is really insightful to me, he explained how for about 10, 15 years, the SaaS and software world was getting a little stale, and like it was a pond that had been well fished, and it was hard to find stuff. And it takes a disruption to restock the pond for the venture investors. And he says, that's why venture is more exciting now than it was for a while, and it was getting a little stale. He says, and AI is the greatest disruptor of all time, and that has completely restocked the pond for venture investors, which is a really interesting insight.
It is.
Love that.
Okay, so we got 2 jumps on that one. Have we even had any passes yet? I don't know. Oh, maybe working with your spouse
or family member. Depending on.
Okay.
I would pass on starting as a franchisor with my first business, but jump as a franchisee.
Okay, ready? Last one. Here we go. And this one's actually a little weird, but here we go, because it's going to be an obvious answer, I know, from both of you, knowing your backgrounds. But raising venture capital before identifying or really hitting product market fit. So you need some cash, you need money to go, you know you can't get it off the ground, you're not sure if you've hit product market fit. Are you jumping at the chance if it's there, or are you passing until you have product market fit?
Passing generally. There could be a little exception.
I'm going to pass.
And
especially in today's world, you know, where it's kind of the accepted practice has become safes, you know, convertible notes. There are ways to figure out seed funding until you get product market fit. To get that formal money, it'll snuff out an entrepreneur.
I mean, if you need $100,000 or $200,000 to get going, and you can find another way. But generally speaking,
it's just a crash and burn scenario.
The earlier you take money, the more expensive it is. It takes more of your equity.
But also, it's a good way to waste a lot of money if you don't have product market fit. It's almost a surefire way to go downhill.
And squandering, this is an interesting insight. So for viewers and listeners, when you raise money and you don't have product market fit, and you're spending the money then trying to find product market fit, you're supposed to be creating value as an entrepreneur, and you're destroying value because you have raised this money, sold it for equity or committed to equity in the future, and then you go squander the money when you didn't need to, and that's called value destruction. And entrepreneurs are all about value creation, not value destruction.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah. So thank you for playing jump or pass. We had a lot of jumps, not a lot of passes. And I knew that last one, what your answers would be, but I still asked it. But thank you for playing the icebreaker case. That was
a great icebreaker.
There we go.
Great, like I said.
And we can turn back to those conversations if you want to, but I also wanted to kick off the podcast with Case, just like literally your origin story. Like, where does it begin? Like, take us back to wherever you want to take us back.
It's a non sequitur, generally. So my background is I am an attorney by training. And went to BYU.
Such a good name for an attorney, by the way.
Yeah.
Case law.
That's my email, caselaw@gmail. I got it the first day Gmail launched. that day I got that email, and
Case Lawrence Esquire just sounds.
Yeah, but abbreviated to Case Law.
Yeah, I got that the day. I forget what it was, but in the early aughts. But yeah, so I was an attorney, went to Duke Law School, practiced in Menlo Park in Silicon Valley for a couple of years, doing tech ventures. In fact, the anecdote I tell everyone is that I was Elon's attorney. The original X.
At Zip2?
After Zip2.
After
He and
Zip2.
Kimball sold Zip2, and then he had started X. I did the merger of X into PayPal.
So my .com competed against Zip2. Zip2
Really?
was I was I was the first guy to launch Internet Yellow Pages, and Zip2 got into our arena for that. And Zip2 was, I went to a lot of conventions and conferences with Zip2.
Zip2.
Yeah.
Wow. So you worked in Silicon Valley doing tech venture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and I tell people one of the inspirations for me was Elon, because I was this grunt attorney working,
in venture
80,
law?
90.
Were you in the venture law?
Yeah, working at Venture Law Group on Sand Hill Road. And, I'm looking across the table, and Elon was my age, and here was this smart, obviously brilliant guy. But it was an experience of, hey, these guys are shaking it up and starting things and creating things. I want to do that. I don't want to be servicing
those guys.
Entrepreneurs. I want to be an entrepreneur. And
right.
so that led me to launch my first company, which is called Cargo Bay. And it was kind of a small business WeWork before WeWork. It was the paradigm was, it was really a storage campus. So a large, 5 to 7 acre campus with storage, mini warehouse space, and offices for entrepreneurs. And the idea was you could put all this stuff on a credit card without signing a lease, and then you could grow month to month as you scale up or down. And anyway, it was a great idea until it wasn't, because we ran into the jaws of the Great Recession.
Geez.
And at its core, it was a real estate business.
Yeah.
So it was
a real estate play.
Everything that had, even 3 degrees removed from real estate was in big trouble back in the recession. And so I spent 2 years just trying to avoid bankruptcy there. I had 2 big commercial loans that I guaranteed.
Personal
guarantees, and both were existential. I mean, if they had been called, I was done.
Yeah.
They were both in special assets for over 2 years. And banks are changing ownership and control.
You completely quit your law practice.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short is I was able to avoid bankruptcy. Fortunately, not by any credit of my own, but just I kind of outlasted the banks at that time, which was a strategy. And so, I found myself in 2009 and 10 sitting here relieved that I wasn't bankrupt or hadn't been forced into bankruptcy, but needing a job, needing a career. And, I had, all my family and friends told me, well, this is why you went and got an education case, so you could fall back on it in this type of situation. So it's time to go get a law job.
Yeah.
And that made sense. But the reality was there weren't a lot of law firms hiring back in 10.
They call that the forgotten generation. I don't know if you've heard that. 09.
Yeah.
If you graduate in 09.
Yeah.
And maybe 10 a little bit too, but 09 was really bad. They didn't, it was almost a given. If you interned in the summer, you got a job offer.
Right.
And they gave no job offers for lawyers that summer.
None.
Wow.
It was dead.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
You were competing with a lot of new graduates that couldn't even get
trouble.
jobs.
Yeah, it was, and so, but I had begun to take steps to get my bar license back active and so on. And about that time, I went on a trip up to San Francisco with my boys, who were 9 and 7 at the time. And a friend of mine, we're big Giants fans, so we went to a Giants game, and we'd done a spring game just about every year. We loved doing that. And a friend of mine said, hey, while you're there, you got to go check this place out. It was right underneath the Golden Gate Bridge at the Presidio. They had redeveloped the military base, the Presidio base, and they had taken an old hangar. There was actually 2 of the original hangars at the military base, and one they had turned into a Planet Granite, a climbing gym, and the other they turned into a trampoline park. And it was one of the first, they were just literally.
What year was this?
This was 11.
Okay.
And there was literally 10 of these throughout less than 10
Yeah.
throughout the country. This was a concept that hadn't taken off yet. And when I heard about it, I was like, I can't even visualize what that is, but it sounds crazy. And I'm with my boys, so we went to this place. And I'll never forget walking in and kind of being confronted with this concept and just going, wow, this is wild. This is just nuts. And by
the boys loved it.
The boys loved it. By the end, we're playing trampoline dodgeball with total strangers.
Yeah.
And, you're throwing balls at people's grill. You don't even know.
Yeah.
And I left there going, this is interesting. This could be a side hustle. This could be something to do to get some cash going.
Yeah, personally.
While I find a real job.
I want to pause for 1 second and just point out to the viewers and listeners that my experience is lawyers that become entrepreneurs are some of the best operators. In my life experience, for better for worse, I can point to 5, 10 lawyers I know that abandoned law and went into entrepreneurship and became successful. My next door neighbor was Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year in Utah just a few years ago, and he just wanted to be healthier, and he's got a massive company for healthy food, and it's great. But what I find is, and I sense this in you too, is just the attention to detail and operational detail. I bet you that's one of your strong suits because that's what law school teaches you.
That's great insight.
Yeah, and by the way, in our boot camps for entrepreneurs, there's hardly ever a cohort without at least one lawyer in them. Yeah.
Turning entrepreneur.
Yeah, we've sometimes had 4 attorneys in a 25-person boot camp. Yeah. Anyway,
you're a wealth of data and knowledge. I love hearing these anecdotes because they're just wonderful.
But so you see this trampoline park and you're like, I got to do something with this, and it could maybe supplement my job hunt.
Yeah, I remember sitting down with my wife and saying, look, because there were no pro formas, there was no model to do. I made a 1-page Excel spreadsheet and kind of imagined how many people might come, and we charged $10 an entry or whatever. And I looked at it, I told my wife, I said, if everything goes right here, I bet we could clear $5,000 a month. And I thought that could be a good little cash sustainer while I look for a real job. So it was always intended as a side hustle, as kind of a family business on the side. And I went and found a building, signed a lease.
Where was it at?
In Madera, California.
Oh, you were out in California.
And I had no money, so and the fortunate thing happening was that the economy was still really slow. And so I went to the landlord of this building I was going to lease, and I said, listen, typically you're used to giving tenants a TI allowance, and I'll just take the building as is. Would you put that TI allowance in and give me a couple $100,000 for trampolines? and the landlord, thought about it. He got back to me a few days later. He's like, I'm probably crazy, but I'm going to do it. I'll do that.
So he just gave you the cash?
He gave me the cash, and I just
he didn't have to spend it on making the space what he wanted.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was the tenant improvements. He's like, okay, I'll just buy your trampolines for you.
So today, Sky Zone is one of the, best credit corporate A+ corporate tenants in America for big box real estate.
Yeah.
Today, I could never get a landlord to
do that. Yeah,
it just wouldn't have happened. So, that was a miracle. And I did the same thing.
The reason that it happens, though, is because you had to have it happen.
Yeah.
So, in other words, it's kind of interesting. A lot of us, further along in our careers, well, that won't work. You can't do that.
Yeah.
No. When it's the only option,
right?
Humans can make it happen.
Yeah. Maybe
you make it sound persuasive.
Maybe for all the entrepreneurs who are listening right now, like what should founders kind of look for before signing a lease? Because I think that's a big part of business.
Moment.
Yeah, because I remember when we were doing Dev Mountain back in the day, we were physical space. Every location we dropped, I had to personally guarantee. When I sold that business, it was a big red mark on the due diligence. They're just like, oh, you and your co-founders are personally guaranteeing all these locations, all these spaces. So like, what is your founder tips, and what should they know before getting into a lease like that?
I think, first of all, Tyler, that's a great insight, because I think there's no greater stifler of entrepreneurship in location-based businesses than
leases. Yeah.
because we have this paradigm in American real estate where you guarantee the lease. A minimum term commercial lease in America today is 5 years.
Yeah.
Like even trying to get anything less than that is a non-starter. And so, by far, it's one thing to take money from investors and then a concept fail, but
then you're on the hook.
But these leases, entrepreneurs are on the hook. And so there's been a shortage of entrepreneurship in location-based experience type businesses, and it's because of that.
It's risky.
It really is risky.
It's a slightly broken model too, because most startups, what they are in their first year will be wildly different by their third and certainly by their fifth year. And signing a 5-year commitment is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Because, and we see it in software all the time too. They find out they outgrow a space, or they find out, no, we don't need that much space. Why did I, how much dark space exists from software companies not needing all the space, especially now with AI and everything happening.
But that scrappy financing and execution you did, I just wouldn't even thought to be like, oh, I don't need the TI, just give me trampolines. Like, I guess that's where my question stemmed from. Like, how did you even know that that was possible or to do? Because
here's why, Tyler. It's to John's point. I mean, I was desperate.
Yeah.
And it's one thing. Like, I actually have a lot of respect and think that my path to entrepreneurship is actually less brave because I was desperate. It's a different thing for people who have an idea and a passion and leave a 6-figure job and walk away from it to take that risk. My thing was, I have no income. I literally have got to make something happen. And so, when you're desperate, you're going to make it happen.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. Instead of throwing money at problems, when you have to, you can solve so many problems without money too. Like, you actually made more money or solve your problem in 5 minutes of negotiating with the it was probably more than 5 minutes, but I always say you can make more money in 10 minutes of negotiating than you can earn in a lifetime. And it's true. You negotiate your way over the obstacle and made it happen, and you had no financial resources to maneuver.
I actually really like your answer. It's like I had this constraint, and it forced me to be creative, and I took my shot.
I like the way you put it. Like literally, you can make more money negotiating and just asking big, right? Like, all of us. It's amazing the risk we're willing to subject.
What was the worst thing the landlord was going to tell you? No.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you say, what's another way I can get these trampolines in there? Then the next thing, you would have gone to a trampoline company and said, hey, I in the future plan to buy a lot of trampolines. Help me get the first one going.
Well, that was part of the equation too.
There you go.
Plan,
Okay, so you stand up this first location. How does it go?
It was wildly successful, more than I ever expected. Definitely cleared the $5,000 a month hurdle. And so my mindset was like, oh, great. I just bought myself some time to kind of get a job. I'm still putting resumes out. And a few weeks into opening, I show up at the trampoline park, and there was a couple there. And they were the couple who lived right behind this trampoline park.
The warehouse?
The warehouse.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh no, they're mad because the music is too loud, and I knew this was going to be an issue. And our employee said, hey, this couple has been here for like 30 minutes. They want to talk to you. So I'm like, oh, I'm bracing myself for a tough conversation, and they're going to call the city, and we're going to have an issue. And I sit down with them, and they said, listen, we just wanted to introduce ourselves. We live here, and we watch the cars coming in day and night. This business is incredible. Would you be willing to partner with us to do one of these on the East Coast? We're trying to move to the East Coast to be closer to family. This guy had a commercial construction company that had been wiped out in the
Great Recession.
So he was looking for a career change, and he said, would you be willing to partner with us? And I thought, I was so relieved that they weren't there
to report you to the city,
to knock me on the music. And I said, well, gosh, that's fascinating. And we looked into it, and we ended up doing it. They went out to Durham, North Carolina, where I had gone to law school. So I kind of suggested that market, and we partnered, and we opened a second one.
Wow.
And it killed it. And I was there for the opening. These things would open, and I'd be there for like 3 or 4 weeks, just
So did you structure that as a franchisee, or did you give them ownership?
Brand new LLC.
Yeah.
We split it 50-50.
On that location.
On that location.
There was no parent.
There's no parent company.
You just had, you owned 100% of yours.
Yeah.
And then you owned 50% of theirs.
Exactly. And it really goes down to this point. Like, I didn't have a vision of this scaling. It was just, I'll do a couple of these.
It was organic. It was organic. Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we opened it, same fact pattern. So I'm there, we just opened, and one of the employees says, hey, there's a lady here who would like to talk to you. And I sat down with her. She goes, I'm visiting from Richmond, Virginia. This was in Durham, North Carolina. She said, I just went through a divorce. I've got $1 million I want to put into something. And my kids love this. It's incredible. Would you do one of these in Richmond? I said, I think I will.
Wow, that is just
so we did one in Richmond.
Serendipitous.
So the first 3 or 4 were all this kind of like stumbling into growth.
But it was just it was a novel idea though. People were like, new. "Oh wow, this is crazy."
It was so new.
Yeah,
and it was so crazy that it
couldn't do that today. Could not do that today.
Again, back to disruption.
Yeah, it was very disruptive.
Yeah,
it was very disruptive.
And so you scaled to 4 locations and just blow it up from there.
Scaled to 4, and then I started to think that, if I'm honest, I started to say all 4 of these are performing great. This is going to grow. This is fun. Why not scale this thing and see what we can do?
At what point did you say, I'm not going to go back to being an attorney?
Yeah. It wasn't until that 4th one.
Yeah. And then he said,
it was a side hustle right up until then. And that timed up with, I got a lead to an investor. And that was a life-altering thing too. It was Jason Peary.
From the Peary family?
From the Peary family.
Okay, wow.
And that was the perfect.
These are huge real estate landowners in California and all over,
Exactly.
Big donors too.
Dick Peary
universities,
is a legend in real estate. And
in Silicon Valley.
In Silicon Valley, billionaire.
Yeah.
And his son Jason is just a remarkable human being and kind of ran the family office, which was a huge deal because trampoline parks back then, you couldn't even get a loan to do a trampoline park. It was so wacky and so dangerous and so on the edge. And VCs too, there weren't any investment
That's not a VC type investment. It's a private equity investment with a family office.
It had to be a family office that had the flexibility.
Hey, footnote on this. What about insurance? What were you doing? I mean, because is insurance a big part of that business?
Oh, yeah. So
could you get insurance?
Yeah, so the insurance model early on, it's changed a little bit, but early in those days, it was, up to 7% of our revenue. And by the way, it was a percentage of revenue. So we would pay a premium, and then we would be audited at the end of the year and pay a percentage of the revenue.
Why was that the model?
Was it percentage of cash receipts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So whatever your cash receipts, they got 7% of it.
They got 7%.
And that was the premium.
Yeah. And no one knew what to make of it, right? There was no actuarials, there was no data.
So basically, the desk at an insurance company had to custom package something for you.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was kind of that alternative market, that you would. And there were a couple groups that were doing it, and over time, as the data set got bigger and the actuarials got honed out, that price went down, fortunately.
Yeah.
But that was a key part of that early business.
But is it still a few percentage points of your business?
Oh, yeah.
Because you got to be covered there. Because I know, I won't mention their names, but the ones who owned Seven Peaks, the first developers of that, had somebody get injured and they didn't have coverage, and it was a big lawsuit, and it forced them to have to sell.
Right. Yeah. No, it's
because
a big issue.
A water park is also something you want to be well insured for.
The liability is there, and that's especially in those first several years. If I'd go to a dinner party or tell anyone what business I was in, that's always the first thing out of their like, the liability must be crazy.
So
how many broken ankles do you have over there?
So what were your first kind of like, this model really works metrics that you were looking at? Like what told you, oh, like I can go to locations 1, 2, 3, 4, or I can support VC investment on this?
And what did the Peary family like? When they did their due diligence on you, what was it? They pulled the trigger and they became your major backer.
When they pulled back the curtain, like, oh wow, this is really good business. Like, what was the metrics they were looking at?
When I sent them the numbers for those first 4 parks, they didn't believe it. The numbers were so good.
The revenues and profit?
Yeah. The margin is incredible.
Wow.
The unit economics,
because it's just space,
incredible.
And they didn't believe it, and then
they didn't believe it.
Okay.
And so we met, and I kind of walked them through it, and I think even they began to trust me, and we built a good relationship. But right on through, I just think they didn't believe it. That something was not right. The numbers were so good, and so I finally proposed to them. I said, "Listen, let's do an experiment. Let's just do a couple, and we'll see how they go, and then we can go from there."
And they would just front the investment for those couple.
Yeah. And so we did a deal, and they said, "Yeah, these numbers are good enough. It's worth an experiment here." And so we did a deal to do 3 parks, and they were, one was in Greenville, South Carolina. One was
so these were more corporate owned still, where you were owner.
It wasn't a franchisee.
LLC. No, it wasn't a licensing.
Different names for each one.
Each LLC. So they gave you money for those 3 LLCs, and you owned part of it. They owned part of it.
They owned part of it.
And you just give up. Oh, what are we going to call this one?
Yeah,
it's just like
we'd have 3 different names, 3 different social media accounts, 3 different markets.
Yeah.
And so we opened those, and they all just crushed it. Mm-hmm. They crushed it, and
then
made
they
the
became
numbers.
Believers.
They were believers, and I'll never forget. We went on a little trip to go visit these parks. They were in like Knoxville, Tennessee, and Greenville, South Carolina, and so we're driving between these markets, looking at the parks, and it was during that drive that we worked out a program, and they said, "Case, this is real. It can scale. We're going to put a program together and just let you grow."
Like a franchise program?
No, it was just a funding.
An investment program.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they said, "Here's the criteria. As long as things meet this criteria, you just go run." And so that took care of my financing problem and allowed me to just grow. And so there were some years, 2013, 2014, 2015 there with Peary, where we were doing 14 of these a year.
Wow.
So more than one a month. We were just boom, boom, boom.
Wow.
And he was, to this day, is one of my best friends, and he was.
Who is Jason? Jason
Peary.
Yeah.
How did you get to Utah? What is this later?
Right there. Right when I was in Utah at that time. So after I did that first one in Madera, California, I did the one in Durham, and my wife and I realized, as we began to do more of these, I thought, I'm not sure where I'm going to find a job anyway. And her parents were having some health issues. She's from Utah, and we thought, let's.
And you moved
Utah.
here to Utah County?
We moved to Utah, and
right,
then
and into Utah County?
Right to Mapleton. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when I began the discussions with Peary, the other point was when I realized I was going to scale it, that Utah is going to be a better place to scale a business like this, and I need a good airport. I need a business-friendly environment.
Like to establish HQ here. Yeah.
And so and that's your HQ down on 5th and University in Provo. And it's it's such a cool office and all that. So you come to Utah and you're running this empire out of Utah and you're getting 14 a year and all that. What I have 2 questions. So how when you were doing this, where I see entrepreneurs fail is they can get one location that they're at every day and it goes well. Getting that second one in another faraway market, another metro area, that's where they fail.
Yeah.
So how did you overcome that?
Yeah.
So that is a great question, and I'm glad you ask it, because it's one of the things that I
It must be one
look
of your
back
specialties.
At. Well, most fondly,
Yeah.
and because spent a lot of sleepless nights thinking about that very problem. And what we did was we would take, I call them jet fighters. We would take young, hungry entrepreneurs, and I would tell them, I said, listen, this is going to be the best entrepreneurial training you'll ever have. You're going to run a $3 to $5 million P&L. Mm-hmm. We're going to drop you in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, You're going to go with your young wife, and these are typically BYU
grads
UVU
or something.
Grads, first job, or maybe they've done something else.
Recent college grads.
Not liking.
Yeah.
And we said, we're going to drop you over there, and guess what? We're going to give you 20%.
Wow. So instead of going and being a summer sales selling arms or pest control, you're going to go do this.
You're going to go do this, and you're going to employ, up to 50 teenagers. You're going to do all the marketing, all the hiring. You're going to be the PR guy with mad party parents or whoever you need to.
Did it take effort to find the right person?
Yeah. And so it was that, and Utah, as we know, has that entrepreneurial culture. Or these guys we just had some great just jet fighters who would go out there and I'm
nobody
so proud
can
of those
sell
guys.
like people from Utah. Utah knows how to sell too. Yeah. So you tapped into that incredible market for that young talent, and that's how you found these managers. They were like the GMs of each location.
I mean, I can really relate to what you built and what you did, because my background was almost exactly the same. Like the boots on the ground, the leadership that were at the ground level was everything.
Right, yeah.
Because it was the same thing for our location, because we just had teachers and instructors and mentors. You had managers and operators and employees.
Yeah, you went to Salt Lake, then you went to Dallas, then you went to
Phoenix and all of, and it was like, man, whoever we have over that location is so key.
It's so key.
Yeah.
It's so key.
Finding those people. And now I have a question is, when did competition start entering in? Because I feel like now it's kind of, no offense, Case, a dime a dozen, right? Once people saw the model, they probably saw the margins, they probably saw the success, and they're just like, I'm going to do that.
By the way, that's a great teaching moment. You have to understand, in entrepreneurship, all you viewers and listeners, literally, when you start a company and you're unique and a disruptor and you're doing all these things, and if you have high margins, that's especially the indicator that you're not going to be very long before you have competition. Because the way capitalism works is, if somebody's sucking out of a capitalistic society unusually high margins for an activity, you're going to get competition because others are going to want to come in, and then you're going to have the margins go down.
Yeah, because it's a price. It's a price war.
It's just the way it works, and that's the
exactly.
And we're grateful to have capitalism, aren't we?
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It was really one of the cool things about this journey was witnessing what you just described. Was the American system responding to this new market, because it didn't exist. It was this brand new industry. And watching how quickly American entrepreneurs filled that vacuum.
Right.
I mean, it was just so efficient. Like,
do you remember Warren Osborne?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's passed away now, good friend of ours. And Warren literally told me, here's how it works. First year, I get premium pricing and margins. I come up with a new idea. He was a product guy, physical, tangible product guy. Second year, everybody discovers what margins I got. And they start competing, and I've got to ramp it up with a feature or do something to keep it up a little bit. But by the third year, it's commoditization, and I have to sell. Yeah. If I go past the third year, I will have a commodity product.
So you're just turning things.
So
every 2.5 years.
Where are we at in the timeline? And by the way, is this now all branded Circus Trix, or are they still separate brands?
So Circus Trix was the name of the company as we grew it and did that, and we had all kinds of different brands. So we had a family of brands.
Did you start having a parent company structure?
Yeah.
And that was Circus Trix.
Yeah. Circus Trix became the company.
Started owning the ownership.
Did that come in with the investment dollars too?
Yeah,
you had to kind of organize it that way.
Yeah. So Circus Trix started when we took that money from.
So you and the investor, their family office, and then your general manager on location, they got 20%. You guys split the other 80%. That's how it went, and you were able to scale and grow that.
We're able to scale.
To how many locations over the years?
So during that kind of golden age of growth, Peary put in over $30 million.
Wow.
And we got up to 30 locations.
Yes.
And at that point, Jason came to me and he said, listen, I love this concept, but I'm kind of tapped out because, these things, the price, when I did my first one, it was about $500,000. Yeah. By the end of the first year, they were up to $1 million. And then, after a couple of years, these were up to $3 million a unit.
Wow.
Technology was improving. Competition was requiring us to kind of arm up, right? And do them bigger and better. And so suddenly you're doing 10 to 14 of these a year at $3 million a pop. Yeah. That's a lot of capital. And so So Jason came to me and we said, okay, well, let's go out and see what the private equity market would be here, because no one had ever done a private equity deal in our space, right? And so we went out and got surprisingly good response, and we took on a private equity partner at that point from New York called Palladium.
Oh yeah.
And that opened a whole new era of growth, because we had been growing unit by unit by unit, and they came in and said, capital's no issue. Who are we going to acquire now? And no one, John, to your point about the stages of an industry, no one had really done any roll-ups.
Like consolidation.
Right? So consolidation plays are awesome.
Consolidation, right.
Again, I want to teach. So consolidation play or roll-up, the words we're using, and I teach about this all the time, and I did that in my industry too. Yeah. It's such a beautiful thing because the money you push down to the bottom line when you start consolidating and acquiring others. So because you can centralize so much expense structure.
But the way you attack competition was consolidating.
Yeah.
You just bought them out.
So we went and bought we were all owned and operated parks. That was our specialty. We had these jet fighters. We'd drop in. We owned all our stuff. And so the private equity guys said, what if we got into franchising, and what if we bought a franchising platform? So we bought our big competitor, which was SkyZone, and they were purely franchising. And so we bought the SkyZone platform. We brought that in, ended up rebranding under that brand. And then we did several other acquisitions as well. And that was the beauty of teaming up with a big private equity partner, is the ability to go do that, and the expertise in knowing how to do that.
We're getting. I don't want to miss anything. We're getting a little low on time.
I know.
But here, so where is? So Circus Trix is not the name, or is that still the parent company name?
Yeah.
SkyZone is your product name.
Yeah.
That people know you by.
Right.
Okay. So that's all the same now. So where's it? How many locations is it now? Are you still the active CEO?
No. So we have over 300 locations.
You were the CEO for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. So I was the CEO until 2019.
2019. Okay.
Through 2019.
Okay.
Oh man.
In fact, I stepped down
right before
at
COVID.
the end of the year, right before COVID.
Yeah.
And so,
COVID was tough on this business, I guess.
That was we were in the bullseye of the exact business that was affected by COVID. And if you took all of our locations, we have international locations, but every state was different, every county was different,
How many locations in 2019, right before COVID? Because you said I didn't know international.
Yeah, we'd already done that SkyZone deal, so we were at like 277
locations.
Yeah.
Wow.
And every city and state was different. But if you were to take the shutdowns and net them over our parks, right? Some were closed 10 months, some were only closed for a month. Yeah. But net average, every one of our facilities was closed for 7.5 months.
Yeah.
That's no revenue for 7.5
And I bet you the restart
months.
After opening was also slow.
Brutal.
Yeah.
And so, it was existential. So we had to do amendments with our bank, obviously, because we were just by shutting down, we were out of compliance with our bank covenants. We had to go to landlords, because a lot of people don't realize that, you have force de jure terms in lease contracts, but the courts made a decision that COVID was not going to trigger that. They said, look, we've got this PPP and these other programs. Let's not ruin the real estate market as well. So
you got some relief.
Tenants
you got some relief.
Yeah, on the hook. The problem is we didn't qualify for PPP because
Why?
Because we had private equity ownership, and that was one of the things that DQ'd you from PPP.
Wow.
So we had to go to landlords and on a one-off basis negotiate every lease.
Now, how involved were you after 2019 during that phase? Did you have to come back in and help?
I had stepped in as chairman, and then but in that role I ended up jumping back into these negotiations with landlords, and
you were side by side with the CEO doing everything. Then okay.
Yeah, and then it was also with these GMs, because these parks are closed, they're not making any revenue, but you can't lay off the GM, or you're basically giving up on that unit. Yeah. And so we had to go in and kind of do furloughs and get creative. So that period of time, I mean, it was it was.
So you thought in 2019, hey, I'm going to chairman status. I'm on easy street.
It's going to be easy.
And then you got hit by out of left field.
So
couldn't predict.
Where is it today? What's your involvement today?
So, I mean, I'm not day to day in the business anymore. And the reality is we survived. And all these things, negotiating with landlords, furloughs, bank amendments, like we squeaked by through COVID. And that was really the test, was just to survive, because coming out of COVID, there was this huge appetite for people to have experiences again and to go have physical experiences. So we came roaring
back
out of COVID. But and so now we're doing better than we've ever done. I mean,
how many locations is
our company?
The same?
We're now over 300 locations now. We
have you taken any chips off the table?
Yeah, we took some chips off.
You've had carve outs on the different investors, okay?
But the company now is over 150 million in EBITDA and growing and
that's EBITDA.
And one of the things that happened coming out of COVID was the business model change, and that's a whole nother story we could talk about.
So wait, you got into this business because you had no income, you didn't know what you were going to do, and now there's 150 million EBITDA. God bless America.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, okay,
really
we talked prior to filming the podcast and starting these cameras rolling that you did a little bit of a political run here. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that.
That's incredible business success. We tip our hat to you. But then you wanted to go into politics?
The Lion's Den.
You just explain that real quick. Because I have friends that have done it. I kind of told you before we started recording, I have no clue why you guys want to do this. But why did you want to do it?
Well, you're not wrong that there's truly no logic behind any of it, because there can't be. I mean, it is, I had always considered I'm a lawyer, and I actually went to law school thinking I was going to be a prosecutor and have that orientation. I studied American history.
Public service.
Yeah, public service. And so, I think now as I went through my post Sky Zone time, I was thinking, where do I make a difference? Where do I serve? And I had been encouraged to do it by a couple people, and an opportunity opened up. There was an open seat. John Curtis was running for Senate.
Yeah.
And a lot of stars kind of aligned, a lot of encouragement came together to say, you should run for this. And so I was thoughtful about it, prayerful about it. My family was on board, and I jumped in. And
that actually makes a lot of sense. The way you're explaining it now, I start to understand a little bit, especially,
a little. It's still irrational, but anyway. But it was quite an experience. I mean, the reality is, it's very much it's very similar to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You're popping up, you're standing up.
It's just a different paradigm, but a lot of the same issues.
All the same things on a very compressed timeline that you're trying to get a product out to market.
A little bit more personal and emotional too.
That too, there's that.
So at the end of the day, right here, right now, would you say now that you've been through that, so you ran for Congress?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you when you being inside that, are you more hopeful or disillusioned about the way the government works and politics work?
Yeah.
What's your feeling?
Well, I think you come away, and I mentioned earlier, with a very specific taste in your mouth about Utah politics, because Utah politics is different than any other state in the union. It is, and the way I've described
how so?
Is nationally you have all the dynamics between the left and the right that play out nationally,
Republicans
that we all follow.
And Democrats,
Republicans, Democrats. And that whole spectrum. In Utah, that whole thing plays out within the Republican Party.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality. And so
the factions you might ordinarily have between left and right are actually within the Republican Party, because the Republicans always win.
That's exactly. That's exactly. And so you've got all these lanes within the Republican Party, and all of these partisans within the Republican Party, and so a lot of the political heat happens there. It happens in the convention, which all of us are familiar with. And so that was a eye-opening, I'd even say maybe a red-pilling experience. Yeah. I consider myself a conservative guy, there's a broad spectrum
Yes,
of craziness out there. And
usually the extremes on both left and right are, you don't want to be around.
And those exist.
But it just took you some time to learn those lanes.
Yeah, you got to learn those lanes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And kind of learn your place and where you're comfortable.
Here's the golden question of anything in life. Would you do it again?
I will not do it again in the future. I would not have done it. Like, it was such a positive experience.
You're glad that you did it and had that life experience.
It was a great experience.
But, okay, the next cycle, 26, 28, 30, are you going to do it?
No.
Okay, then my question for you...
I'm going to support a lot of these other brave souls.
There you go. My question for you then is, what's next then, Case? Like, is your involvement with Sky Zone still there? Or are you really...
Not day to day.
No.
Yeah. I just took on a new role in January. I took over This Is the Place Heritage Park up in Salt Lake.
Oh, you did?
Which is a living history.
Is that a volunteer position?
It's a volunteer position.
Okay.
I took over for Ellis Ivory, who'd done it for 19 years.
Okay.
And I'm loving it. My wife's involved with me. We're having a blast.
I didn't know. Okay.
And it's a lot of fun, and it draws upon a lot of my career lessons that I've learned about experience and entertainment and so on. And so we're making some changes, trying to freshen things up there. And so it's a fun intellectual challenge, and
that's
and
cool.
It's taking my energy, and then I'm going to continue to teach.
That's so fun, isn't it?
It's
rewarding. Yeah, the students. I'm not so sure about the university's bureaucracy, but as an adjunct, you don't get exposed. I was full time. I got a little bit more exposed in how our friend Scott Peterson handled being right in the line of fire of all the bureaucracy, but being an adjunct, but the students make it all worthwhile. I mean, they're incredible.
And you pioneered the way. You pioneered that course.
Well, there was pioneers before me too, so yeah.
No, but really, you
that's
did.
nice of you to say.
You did, John.
Okay, so I mean, I think that kind of wraps up the episode. But I really want to thank you, Case, for coming.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for your story. Like,
it feels like we could go another hour.
Oh, we totally could talk about.
But your business experience is going to be so helpful to the listeners and viewers of this podcast.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm impressed by your command of data, and you run a good podcast.
Yeah, I'm trying to be the best host in the world here, Case.
You're good. Seriously.
But no, thank you. If you love this episode, please subscribe. Reach out to us. Reach out to Case. I'm sure he's willing to talk to anybody and everybody who's listening right now. But this is the Startup Ignition podcast. Thank you so much for watching. But we are out. So thank you.